though.
Yes. Right.
So you guys need an alignment, not coaching.
The coaching industry has exploded.
We want to be better. We want to move forward and keep growing.
Uncoachable is going to be released bi-weekly with a new coach, a new idea, a new approach, and a new takeaway. Hi, I'm John.
I'm Rhys,
And he's uncoachable.
So welcome to Uncoachable. I am Rhys, and with me is John.
Hello, hello.
And we are joined by our good friend, Carrie Forbes from Rockstar. And we are doing an experiment with you today, Carrie, aren't we?
We are. It's going to be fun.
Well, I was going to say good friend in the beginning of the episode. Maybe
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see
how this pans out.
we're going to get some wrong answers. So the idea behind this episode, so Rhys and I have often talked as co-founders. We have different characters, different ways of approaching things. And somebody had a wonderful idea saying maybe we should get tested.
Yeah. I mean, Carrie, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience? You've never been, we know you, but our audience may not.
All right. Well, I can. So I'm Carrie Forbes. I'm the CEO and founder of Rockstar Advisory. And this advisory has come together after 25 years of, transformation, but a lot of people work. And so within that, I've done a lot of career coaching over my decades. And in particular, I've used the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator as part of that. So I've got decades of that experience. And and you guys called me up and said, what's this all about? So I am more than happy to kind of share and see where you fall on the indicator. So it's not a test. So I'll just point that out.
I wanted to beat John.
Right. I'm going to take the test again.
So why would you use Myers-Briggs? Why would you? It is Myers-Briggs. Yeah.
That is, yeah.
Why would you use that? What's like the typical test case? How is it helpful as a tool?
It's really helpful in a few different areas, but when it was actually developed, which was way back in right after World War I, it was originally intended for career and to help especially veterans that were coming back from the war to figure out where they might go in society and what else they could do based on their, not just personality, but it's a lot about things that we prefer to do. So we're going to get into that a little bit. So, however, the indicator, that's what we say. It's not really a test, but it gives us some information about how we prefer to think in certain ways.
Yeah.
So that's really the key. Still primarily used all over the world. I mean, there are probably about 3 million people per year that still take the indicator, usually in a professional setting. We do see it used in education, but the second biggest use of the tool is marriage counseling.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, exactly.
This is a double whammy for us, I guess. Right.
I'll share with my wife as well.
I have to reveal that I've done this, not test. And I did it roughly 20 years ago. It was a leadership program. We were actually trying to figure out how to build better teams and how we could fit with each other. And that's why I was familiar with it. And I'm going to guess, though, 20 years since I've done it the first time, I'm now a different person.
Yeah. Also, I was going to say, I'm amazed that it's been 100 years old as a tool.
It has been. It's an interesting tool, and it's based on the work of Carl Jung. So a lot of the basis of not just Myers-Briggs, there are other types of personality indexes out there. One called Colors, Insights Discovery. They're all based basically on the Jungian philosophy, but everybody's taken that to a different place. And this is really interesting. So Myers and Briggs were a mother and daughter team. And they took Jung's work, and imagine this, they're sitting around observing. So going to coffee shops, listening to conversations, and picking up these characteristics that they read about. And then they also developed another portion that made the tool its full use. So it does, it's one of those things people say, oh, it's just like a horoscope. It's, it's not, but there's actually quite a bit of science behind how the questions are actually designed, and they update it constantly, looking for things like cultural biases or changes in societies as things go forward. So we have a massive database of 100 years worth of data, more so than any other tool that's out there, although the big one is called the Big Five personality. This is different than that because it's not measuring. So that's really important to know. We're not measuring how good you're doing anything. This is a tool that sorts your behavior. So
We like this because we had a conversation the other day about the different ways that different generations approach things, and that things can get lost in language just from your position or your bias. All of these. So I like this.
Yeah.
I'm slightly nervous as well because I don't want to really. I'm a private person. I don't want to disclose much, and I feel like you're going to reveal who I am.
Yeah, potentially.
Well, and I guess this is a good point for me to kind of share some of the ethics behind and what we're really attempting to do. And it's important for people, if you are going to take this test indicator, if you're going to engage in it, it should be something that you want to do. The minute that somebody tells you have to do it, that's a flag. It needs to be something you choose to do because it's your results. And you also get to decide how it's used.
Yeah.
And you get to decide whether you share your information. So I guess, are you okay sharing today before?
I'm a sharer. I'm fine with it. But I was going to say, the one time I did a thing like this before, and I was telling the team earlier, was I was applying for a part-time job at a DIY store back in the UK, B&Q. It's like the UK's version of Home Depot. Mm-hmm. And I had to do a personality test, and I failed the personality test. I was too much of a rebel to work in a DIY store. So I have like a weird track record.
And there are those types of tests, and they exist, that are trying to pick up, are you a theft? Are you? And that's really, if you're a person who is neurodivergent, you can very easily get tripped up on those things. So
I think I certainly did.
This is not that. And we're going to get into what it is and what it isn't. And I think we've put a lot of society, it's been in our parlance for quite some time. So people have an impression of what these words mean, like extrovert and introvert. Yeah. But we'll tackle them a little bit separately.
Right. Okay.
We did the test a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing, and I'm terrible for this, I start to look for the patterns in the questions when I get asked. When I do these. And I was like, I feel like I'm getting asked similar questions in different ways. And I was like, oh, that must be a consistency kind of element within there.
It absolutely is.
And my worry sometimes is I get so obsessed with the pattern that is emerging from the questions and the order they ask in them and the repetition of the question. Am I answering them? And I was trying my best to get that out of my head and answer as honestly as possible. So I wanted to flag that as, is that something that comes up very often?
Absolutely. It's by design. So every question is built binary. It's this or that. And they do it purposely, and they ask those repetitive because they know you might feel kind of wishy-washy about one. So they'll ask it in different ways in order to go, yeah, we truly see. So when we get through and you see your result, you're going to see a range of how clear you were on a particular preference.
Okay.
And so that clarity is where all that repetitive questions is trying to hone in. So some people, and we're all different a little bit. So let's say I'm extroverted and you're extroverted. I might be really extroverted, you can see it, but you might be a little bit more on the introverted side. And that's where those differences, we start to see them. And that's why those questions can feel so repetitive.
Mm. Okay, cool. That's good. Did you notice that?
Oh, I did as well. Yeah. And it was, when I'm filling these out, I do wonder whether I'm changing my answer as I go along. Sometimes it's
paranoid.
Based on.
I wanted to do good. I wanted to do it right.
But I'm also thinking, maybe I'll be different on Monday versus on Friday.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
so all of these slight adjustments. Yeah. So I wonder if I get a failed result from the not test, whether I can take it tomorrow and get a better result. But I understand it's not. It's nowhere near that. But back to your earlier question about the consent to be able to do this as well. So Rhys and I, of course, nodded our heads. We took the test. We thought it was a wonderful idea, and I'm very keen to get to the results right away. So
maybe I'm less adverse to it because I've done stuff with educational psychologists for me and done a bunch of testing stuff. Maybe you haven't been as heavily analyzed in the same way.
Not publicly.
Or
not to my face, I guess.
Yeah, not to your face, exactly.
So before we get started, I have a little task for you guys.
Okay.
Now, I know Jonathan has a pen and a piece of paper. It'd be great if you could grab one as well.
That is a testament to who is organized and who is not in the office.
Yes, I have. I didn't forget.
Rhys showed up prepared. Has had a pen and paper.
Yep. So this is the hardest test you're going to have today, this right here. But this is critical. This is the first.
It's been a testy day.
Test number 1, I want you to write your signature. Just your signature as you normally do it. Great. Okay, test 2, I want you to do it again with the opposite hand.
Oh, God.
No.
This is the hardest thing I've done all year, Carrie.
Yes.
Okay. So this here is a great representation of how Myers-Briggs works. That you have, and we're going to look at 4 different dimensions where just like right-handed or left-handedness, you prefer one over the other.
Okay.
Now, when you did it with your dominant hand, how did that feel?
Like
Natural.
Yeah.
right?
Predictable.
You didn't have to think about it, right? You just kind of did it. When you had to use the other hand, how did that feel?
Oh, yeah. I had to really think about every single motion,
Wrong.
right?
That's the word I use.
Wrong.
Could you do it?
No.
Well, yeah.
Well, not. Yeah. I mean, luckily my signature is terrible. So.
But let's say you broke your dominant hand and you were forced to use that other hand.
Well, so
Yeah.
I guess the question about is what is correct. So, I mean, if I compare both signatures, they don't look the same. They're not even close. But they're both signatures.
They're both signatures. You did both. So I want you to think as we go through, and this is a good analogy for when we talk about these psychological pieces, think of them as 2 separate parts of ourselves. You have both.
Okay.
And the other thing is you don't walk around with one hand behind your back, right? Mm-hmm. You might have a dominant, but you use the other for support. And if you're like me, you might actually be a little ambidextrous. You might use one hand dominantly for something and the other hand perhaps a little bit differently. So when you were taking the test, what we're trying to figure out in each of these is which side are you more fluid in? So I want you to keep that in the back of your mind because this is not about being purely binary. It feels that way. But just like our handedness, these 4 little 4 little letters we're going to look at work the same way. So,
Okay.
All right. So the first set that we look at are what we call, and you've probably heard this before, introversion and extroversion, right? And we've got, by the way, we take those terms and we turn them upside down from what they actually mean in Myers-Briggs. So, society, we go, extroverts are loud and obnoxious and they're filling up the room and taking over sometimes. But really, what extroversion means, it's about how I gain my energy. So and introversion the same way. So people think introverts are shy and they're antisocial. Not at all necessarily. What it truly means is introversion and extroversion in this sense is, do I gain energy by being out with people? Or do I gain energy by alone time? And so if you think about that and you think about how you run your day, what are the things you do? Do you get tired being around people, right? Doesn't mean you're antisocial. So my husband's an introvert, or identifies as an introvert. He's the life of the party. But guess what? It wears his battery. So he has to go down, take a nap, et cetera, et cetera. I might be still rolling on all of that hype of, oh my gosh. Likewise, if a person prefers introversion, then they typically need that downtime also to do deep processing. So here's some things that are just a couple little points that are very different about the two. So extroverts love the outside world. Interaction gains that energy. They think out loud. So this is why they get the reputation for being obnoxious, because the introverts are kind of like, I just wish they'd stop talking. And there's a reason for that. You see that? I can see Rhys's face here. So extroverts think really well, talking it out loud. The processing is happening externally. And you can see that dominate around a table. If you put a group together, the extroverts are all going to start talking. And then what happens is the folks who prefer the introversion, who are an inner reflection, they do their best thinking with time and they go very, very deep. And before they speak, they need to do that. So what ends up happening in a team situation is the extroverts are doing all this and the introverts are going, I can't even keep up. And I just wish they'd stop because the point I had 10 minutes ago, they've moved on from.
Yeah.
And then we start blaming each other for the lack of understanding of where we are. Also, introverts tend to have more depth of interest, like 2 or 3 things, they go really deep, where extroverts like to have a variety. Again, it's that sort of people network thing. So those are just some of the general pieces around that. So having said all that, how does that resonate with you guys?
I'm devoid of inner monologue. So there's no inner voice. It is all the outer voice. So
Yeah, and
John's much more strategic.
It is. Well, so with active listening, though, I disagree with a couple of them. The recharge part, I'm an obvious introvert. I do need to escape away, sit back, and just relax. And I like solitary moments. I thrive in that situation and be able to come back. In conversations, I'm the opposite, though. So often I'm heavily engaged in dialogue. I'm an active listener, so that I'm actually following with speed all of the different thoughts. But it still take time for reflection as well.
And what's also really interesting to note here is that we, through our experiences, especially in workplaces or how we're trained or influenced, can work really well against our natural preferences. Okay, so sometimes, and I get this a lot, do type change over time, and it can. And it's not necessarily just because we change our personality, but we see this especially in women. A lot of times women are socialized to be nurturers. So we'll see this in another dimension. And so for many years, we saw women coming out as big on the feeling side. We don't see that as much anymore because some of those cultural pieces do influence us to say, well, I want to be this, maybe instead of it's my preference.
Right.
So that's something that I often say, well, if you weren't at work and you're just on vacation and you don't have any of this pressure, that's a better place to think about what would I do. In that way.
Yeah.
And I think we all put on a little bit of a mask when we go into our jobs, and we become sort of the person that I think I need to be to do that job the best I can.
100%. The other thing that keeps us honest is thinking about how we relate to our family, because usually they know us really well and we let our guard down. So I often look at, well, how do I relate to my spouse, my partner, my kids, etc. That can give me some more information. The other thing, and you said, well, correct or not. Here's the thing. It could be correct, that mix. So the other thing, remember the handedness.
Yeah.
You may not be purely over here. You may have traits of the other, and you may see that in your reporting. So some of what we do, today we're going to look at the first 4 letters, but we can also break it down further to see, well, what are my outer preferences that actually come in too? All right, so with that on extroversion and introversion, if you think you have an idea, what I'm going to do, and I do this with all clients because it's important for you to self-identify before you see your report so that you can actually go, does this really resonate?
Okay.
So if you've got it in mind, just write it down and keep it to yourself, and then we'll...
In terms of extrovert and introvert.
Yeah, whether you're extrovert or introvert. Oh, Jonathan's looking.
Oh, right.
This will be fun. All right. The next, we call them functions, right? So the next set of functions that we look at are called sensing and intuition. So what this is all about is how we take in information and how we process it. So we have 2 types again. Now the type that is called sensing, there are people who are really good at the present, and they're actually really good at detail because they're very tuned into the 5 senses as things are. So they will really know those facts, those details, they stick. And they tend to be really experiential, like whatever embeds on the doing and the application, that's where they're really, really good. And they tend to take a more step-by-step build-up approach, so start from the building blocks and move that based on practical experience. And the thing I like about the sensing type is, first of all, they're really rich with detail, color, all of those things. Like they really, it's almost like it gets into their DNA. And they're also the person that if I'm in a car accident, I want them in a witness if I'm not at fault. Okay, let me say that because they're going to get it down right. Now, the other side of the spectrum is what we call intuition. Because we already have an E and an I, we mark intuition with an N, just so that we have a different letter. So it's S or N. So the intuitive thinker will start with the 5 senses, but patterns start to emerge. So they jump, and they're big picture thinkers. So they tend to kind of make connections and try to pull all of that together. And they start with the big picture and need to see that first and then start to break it down. And they also start to think about the what could and how. Now, I didn't bring it up as much in E and I, but here, and one of the things when you talk about team or relationships is you start to see areas where you could come into conflict. Mm-hmm. So when we don't appreciate that other side, you can see this in a workplace. So Intuitive types will start looking at the sensing people and go, you guys are in the weeds. You got to like think bigger, right?
Yeah.
And then likewise, the people who are in sensing, and they're going like, yeah, buddy, you don't know what this is. Like your head is in the clouds. You got to get real.
Yeah. How are you going to get there?
How are you going to get there? So, you have this bit of a fight, but the reality is, remember, we need both hands. And we need the other piece of this, and I forgot to mention it earlier, is we have both of these in ourselves. Just because we prefer or lean on one doesn't mean the other one doesn't exist, just like your handwriting, and it doesn't mean you can't practice it as well. It's not to say that you're going to get perfect, but it can help. So this is one in teams that often gets teams riled up, and you end up with a project where it's like everybody's misaligned because they're not looking at it from the same place.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And the great thing is, if you understand that, you can, as a leader, you can actually start to go and go, well, wait a second, you have this strength and you have this strength. Let's combine them. So let's start with the details, build them up, and then make sure we've got the big picture and everybody can work instead of saying my way is better than your way. Yeah. So how's that?
I know why we clash often now, which is weird because I actually think I am different than what I used to be in regards to this, and it's based on experience, I think. And so I'm going to jot down a letter for me that's probably different than what I expect it to be, but we'll see if I'm right.
Yeah, I very much like, we'll have our first meeting with the client, and I'm like, I can see the podcast in my head.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel...
Yeah, with no planned steps to get there.
No, exactly. but we'll do it. So yeah, I kind of feel like in my head, like that's, in terms of the self-identification, that's quite easy for me. But again, the test might say something else. Right.
And I think with this one, a lot of it has to do with what energizes you, right? So if you are more of a sensing type, getting the big, thick details that you can dive into, like data, and starting to do that, really, that's where, my happy space. For the person who likes intuition, it's the big ideation and coming up with all of that.
That is so I think we are forced to go back and forth between the two on a regular basis, especially as entrepreneurs, that started with just an idea.
Right.
And then it's to backfill it with how do you actually get there, right?
Yeah.
So... Interesting.
So I like to do also examples of people who represent these like public figures. In this case, I have two similar ones. So Mother Teresa, okay? She was a high sensing, so very nurturing. She did her work mainly on the ground with people. She didn't have a podium or anything. It was really, her work was much more one-to-one in that way, very direct. Versus Gandhi. And Gandhi was different. He was a spokesperson. He was much more of a symbol in that way, but both very much doing the same kind of work.
Interesting. So that's a flip on what I was thinking. So if you're in the weeds all the time doing stuff, that would change. You're more like a
You're
Mother
trying to
Teresa.
say I'm like Mother Teresa.
Oh my. Okay, so you've got. So I think I see you've written down.
Yeah.
So you kind of have an
I'm
idea.
keeping mine private.
Okay, excellent. And I see but you're not keeping Rhys's private.
No. Oh, sorry, no, everyone knows mine.
It's all good. Okay, the next component on the this one's one of my favorite ones, and it's the one for me that I've struggled with back and forth, and I've probably flipped letter back and forth quite a bit, and it has to do with how you prefer. Notice I'm saying prefer all the time because sometimes you make them the other way, but if you had your own, drithers about you, this would be the way that you would do it. So how do you make decisions? Now, there's two styles. One is called thinking and the other is feeling. Now, we can intuit what that is, but let me go through it. So people who use the thinking style look at things from a logical perspective. So it's more like, okay, a judge. I've got to weigh the evidence, and really fairness and justice is the real motivator for someone who's making a decision in the thinking style. They'll take a step back to be objective. They try to kind of make it non-personal because in their mind, that sounds fair. Sounds really easy. Sounds great. Then we have the feeling side of the equation. Now that's a more person-centered, individual. And it has more of a focus on, well, how is this going to impact people? And how will it affect harmony when we make this decision? And they tend to kind of value more of, well, what's the compassion that comes out of this? And there may be more personal consideration for a decision. So when I do this in groups, usually this is the test that I do. And I usually have a little group test. And I'll throw it and say, okay, company's got some money, but they can send to this big conference in Hawaii, but only half the team can go. How do you make that decision?
Change it from Hawaii to Cape Breton. I don't know. What? No?
I don't know. That's tough. I would say if you're going to do that, you'd have to, to avoid upsetting people and doing favoritism, you'd have to do some kind of lottery.
No, see, So I interesting. Good question, right?
Yeah. Or,
I don't like the notion of randomness. Is to me that there's a reason for why you're going to Hawaii. And there's certain people that would be more qualified to go to Hawaii versus others.
Who's more qualified to go to Hawaii?
Or more interested in going to,
or
if it's a reward, right? So there's a bunch, right?
So we see it right here. Actually, what I found so fascinating, Rhys right away said, the who. He was like, well, we got to figure out how, right away you were on with the people.
Okay.
And that was just said to me. Whereas what I saw with Jonathan is he's like, well, wait a minute here. We got to consider some other stuff. So he's still processing and thinking. And it's not that he doesn't care about people, right? And this is where they start to clash, okay? In the thinking style, the assumption is if we're fair, everybody's taken care of, right? But on the feeling side, it's like, yeah, but you don't have all the information, so how could you possibly know that? You're making a decision for me that you don't know all the things.
Right, Rhys?
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
Maybe I don't want to go to Hawaii. Maybe I want to go to Ireland next year, and if I opt out of this one, I get to go to Ireland next year. You didn't ask all the questions. You need to think more.
You're thinking in hypotheticals.
You want me to feel more? I need to feel more. So I'm just going to jot down my letter over here because I think I already know where I identify.
And by the way, the lottery is often a solution no matter what side. It's just how they apply it. It's so funny. It's like, well, names in a hat. And then one group came up with a really great way, and it was a combination of the two where they said, well, we're going to come up with some criteria first about anybody who didn't attend before, that didn't have a chance. Let's check with people to see if they really are interested. And then whoever's left over, etc. So what made it work, again, was honoring the two and trying to combine them together.
Yeah. So the exercise for me, which is team building, which is understanding the differences, and it's the differences that make us better.
Yes, that to me is probably the most powerful way to use this tool. It's not something that is going to tell you everything. It's just a few little pieces, but they are powerful. And when people understand that there are differences between us, it gives us more space. Yeah. It allows us to go, oh yeah, we're different, and that's okay. All right. Now, my favorite TNF here I have is Spock and Kirk from Star Trek. So you can just picture who's who there, right?
I have to call you Captain Kirk now?
Only if you want to.
Only if you want to. All right. Now, the last set here is actually the contribution of Myers-Briggs. So the first three were what Jung himself had started to identify in those patterns. And those three sort of exist in all those other models that I mentioned. But this one in particular was one that Myers-Briggs saw sitting around going, well, wait a minute, people organize their world very differently. They have different approaches. So this is how you prefer to organize and plan and manage the world around you. And one type is called judging. It doesn't mean you're judgmental. The judging style likes, these are people who love structure. These are like project managers, right? I like to have a plan, work the plan on time, and make sure it's done. I like to know ahead of time what I'm doing. If they're going on vacation, they've got a full itinerary every day. They know what they're doing, and they get great satisfaction checking the boxes and feeling that life is planned and organized. And I see
Amina from our team is just like nodding enthusiastically.
I know. It's like, yes!
That's because Rhys and I've sort of tuned all of that out. It's like, no, checklists, check boxes, no, to-do lists.
Then you're going to like the perceiving style,
of course,
right?
Yeah.
So perceivers are flexible and spontaneous, right? So they are I am a pretty big perceiver.
Jotted his down. I love it.
It's like, here we go.
I don't even need the bullet points. I know.
So adaptability is really, really key for this. And people who prefer perceiving are actually better at that little push at the end. We call it pressure prompt, which is last minute. We're actually better at it. And we do see a lot of neurodivergence in that style as well, because it's kind of like everything comes together at the end. But there's a reason for that. People who are perceiver are uncomfortable closing things off too early because, well, what if more information comes along? And, well, I'm not quite there yet. We're not at the deadline yet. And, I'll pull it together. And it's more of a go with the flow. Now, the nice thing is they're really good on their feet. So these are people who are good on stage, really good if, something's going wrong, they can wing it. Not entirely, but like good enough that they're comfortable in the moment. And so you can imagine this dynamic. I kind of see it in the workplace, right? You've got, whoa, I have my needs here, which is get this done. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't say till the deadline was here. Now, my former boss, it was so funny. My last company when I started working, and he looked at me and he goes, I can't understand how you work at all. And I said, well, you probably won't, but that's okay. Trust the process. So he handed me something that was due like 3 weeks. And about a week later, he's like, so where is it? And I'm like, well, I haven't started it yet. And he goes, well, and I said, okay, we're going to have to talk about this. Like, if you want a deadline of here, you're going to have to give it to me because I'm going to have it done by the deadline, but it may not necessarily be in your order and structure. And it took him a while, but he eventually got used to it. But it was really uncomfortable because in his mind, I'm not working. I'm fluffing off, in that way. Likewise, people who are too perceiver in a leadership role can get really loosey-goosey and go, oh, yeah, just get it done when it's done. And then they might expect that there's some sort of order, but if you haven't defined it, people don't know where to go. So now my favorite pairing for this, and I've used this many times, is Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart, the two of them together.
There is no Martha in this room.
It's a room full of Snoop Dogs.
Right. I wasn't going to say it.
You probably see that in creative industries, right?
Yeah. It is. It's a challenge when you've got really large projects that need to have multiple milestones. So
Yes.
from an operational standpoint, it's difficult when we both love a deadline.
Yeah.
We've got one today at 11:59. Something has to get in. It's not done yet. We'll get it done because our deadline's 11:59 today.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Right. And so what's really interesting here, and we've sort of touched on it, is that you can see patterns in industries based on these types and the way that it works, but it's not always that way. So in every organization, you have people that fit I'll say the prototype, and I'll pick on the tech industry. The tech industry has a lot of introverted, intuitive thinking, judging. So INTJ and INTP, perceiver as well. You see that profile really, really strong. And then in nursing, you would see a lot of extroversion, sensing, feeling, and judging, right? So you can see that. But you will have people that are opposite to that working. And then the challenge is, how do you gain the benefits of what they bring in line with everybody else? Because you don't want to have groupthink. So sometimes what we do is we demonize the people that could help us with that because we don't understand how they bring that value. So this is what I love about using this tool. And everybody figures out, well, I fit over here and I fit over here. But the downside and the caution is that it shouldn't label. So we shouldn't excuse people. Well, it's because I'm an extrovert that I'm this way. No, that's just your preference. And it doesn't tell you you're good at anything. Like notice there's no measurement here.
Yeah.
So just because I'm extrovert doesn't mean I get any special advantage or it gives me any power. I still have to be evaluated for my skills, right?
yeah.
Okay. So,
Right. So
The tension is
Rhys,
building.
it is.
alrighty.
John, who do you remember 4 letters?
What do you mean? I wrote them down.
You did write them down, did you?
I did.
Oh, cool.
I
Okay.
did.
I forget my letters.
Well, yeah. It's
Here
funny.
goes.
We self-selected, but we opted out of ones that seemed to really irk us, like the J for checkboxes, process, timelines.
I think you're more of a J.
There we go. Okay. I
Just a-
just sent those.
I'm all P.
Let's take a look at those. All P.
All right. So Rhys,
and I guessed both of yours correctly. So I was really
Did you? Oh,
excited.
wow.
very interesting.
This is why you're here to do this, because you're the pro with this. Now we just refresh our email until it comes through.
Suspense.
And here's the funny
it.
part. I think you're close. Anyway, you're also one of the most typical pairings.
Oh my goodness, I haven't
Really?
changed in 20 years. I was hoping I was less. The second one is the intuitive. And I thought with years of experience, I'm now sensing, I'm actually taking in inputs and I'm starting to feel a little bit more. But apparently I am an INTP, which is what I've been for the last, since I last took the report.
There you go.
I got mine right.
Yeah.
I'm very polarized. There's no middle ground ones. They're all like...
You're very clear.
Yeah.
on who
Wow,
you are.
that's crazy.
Oh, I didn't get to that page. What page are you on?
So if you go down, it's like a sliding scale.
Oh, yes.
So
Yep.
So what you're seeing as well in that scale is just, and like you mentioned at the beginning, all those repeated questions, they're showing you how clear you are on how you on that preference. And so it's interesting. Sometimes people flip a letter. I recently did. I flipped from feeling to thinking, which shocked me.
Right.
But I've had a lot of stuff over the last 5 years, and I was always on the border. So the other thing is people can be borderline, just like you can be ambidextrous. And that's very real. Like I can feel both ways. And that can be a little, for those people, that's actually a real benefit because they can easily connect to people on both sides. So
John, I had very strong...
Well, we could talk about our contrasts.
Well, no, I was gonna say. So I had a very strong extrovert. Extroversion. Sorry, what did you have?
I was very strong introversion.
There we go.
Which is I was an 86, I guess, percentile or weighting out of 100.
Yeah.
So I'm very introverted, which is peculiar for other people. When they look at me, they wouldn't assume that I'm an introvert.
I was 88% extroversion.
There's no winner.
And that's because, remember, we're thinking about what society says about introversion, right? Mm-hmm. All it is about how you're getting your energy. How you get your energy hasn't changed, but how you're able to manage that and actually perform, you've adapted it. Right. Just like if you had to start using your non-dominant hand, you get pretty good at it after a while, even though this is still your dominant hand.
Next up, intuition.
Oh, absolutely.
Or
I think
sensing.
Oh, I'm intuition.
I'm 95th percentile intuition.
And you're both, I think, in the end.
I think we are.
Yeah, you're both intuitive. Yeah. And that's so one of the things is opposites don't always attract. Usually, and this also we see on the marriage side or partnership side, it's usually having at least one letter is the best. One letter in common, because there's enough differentiation to keep the balance, but you're not polar opposite. And some of the people that I've struggled with the most, say in employees, have been my opposite usually.
Yeah. Well, so this one for big picture thinking, especially as business partners,
right?
Think about what we're trying to do, and it allows us to align a lot on that vision,
right?
And then we can deviate from execution because those are details. We can, and then we can roll up our sleeves, get into the weeds as we do because we are also doers.
Yeah.
But it allows us to find commonality in a vision, I guess, right?
Yeah. What I find weird about this is that. Part of me was like wondering whether it was either gonna confirm how I feel about like as you were going through those letters, or are you gonna totally floor me and I was the opposite of what I thought. Maybe I just convinced myself these things, but turns out I was right, so I did win. John.
Well, I think you I'm joking. You should take the test again and see if you get consistency. And I don't know if it's an annual thing or a Monday to Friday thing, but it is consistent for me. Like I said, over a long period of time.
Over time.
So thinking versus feeling, I was 69th percentile feeling.
Oh, I can agree. You don't think much. Sorry. What I meant to say.
And you don't feel much.
I'm cold-hearted.
See how that comes out? Like,
wow.
Right away.
You didn't hurt me.
What have you done to us, Carrie?
I didn't feel anything from your insult, Rhys.
This is a great example, though, of guess what happens when we're stressed and when there's tension in teams. We start, we lose, some of our patience and whatnot. We actually start, and you do that to, we do that to people we care about. We go, well, that's because you're this. And so sometimes when there's a team and there's challenges, this can be a really helpful tool to see, well, these folks are in conflict because they have different work styles and you can see what's happening. And a little bit of figuring out how to work together. You don't have to give them the whole concept, but you can say, well, you're really time-oriented and you're really here, so why don't we do this?
Yeah.
That can be extremely powerful for folks to realize we don't have to compete and conflict. We can actually collaborate.
Yeah.
I see this actually slightly differently is from a contrast, this allows us to work with and build better teams as well.
Yes.
As people are looking for either somebody that is more thoughtful or more feeling, we're able to offer a more diverse space and approach things differently. Right?
And also like, identify weaknesses and where we need more people who think differently from us that can strengthen us.
That gets to our last character, because you and I are both we're both perceiving.
Yeah, judging and perceiving.
Really means that we need a strong director of operations for us to actually get anything done in the organization.
That's right. That's right.
That's what you'd imagine.
I could imagine we would.
Imagine we would
need to turn to somebody for help.
Now, one more thing I love to add here, just for teams, is I love using this model. Say you have a problem to solve. We call it the zigzag, because imagine just moving between these 4 letters. So the first thing we would start with is, and actually it's more about the middle. So when I say this, we're just going to use the N, the F, and the opposites there. So we would start first with sensing, okay? Let's take a look at what detail do we have first. Get that out of the way. Then we move to intuition to say, what does it tell us? What are the patterns we're seeing? Then we can move it to thinking, which is, what's the logic? And let's get critiquing about this. And then the final step is we go to feeling to say, and who does it impact? And when you use it in that way, it's a great team model, because everybody gets to kind of see themselves in it, and you're considering all the major pieces. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I really like this.
Well, me too. It's interesting to see it broken down, but then also I like the self-identification and then the actual results.
No, I like this because I knew you, and now I know you. Right? And,
is this a breakthrough, John?
It is a breakthrough, and all the things I've been saying that are your characteristics. This helps me reaffirm some of those.
But I think as well, though, the characteristics that I think as you go through each process, we're identifying in ourselves and in each other. But I think you can also start to do it with family members and other people. You can kind of go, you can almost start to draw a scale for everyone in your life to a certain extent.
I find it helps us be ourselves a little more considered about people. You know how it is, and you've seen why do they have to be that way?
Yeah.
And it's because it's different than we are. Well, people, we're annoying too to other people. But at the same token, when we can appreciate the difference, even if it's something that we ourselves don't prefer, then we all kind of get along a little better in that way. One caveat I do have, because I've seen it used in a negative light, I've said at the beginning, if somebody comes to you and says, we want you to apply for this job and use this tool, run. That's unethical. It says right in the Myers-Briggs, you're not to use this for those purposes. You can give people, for their own coaching and they can take it, but this doesn't tell you if you're good at anything. And I've seen that used in negative ways for people to screen out certain types of people. And theirs would be very, very unethical. And the other thing is it's only a small little slice of ourselves. It's not trying to be, I find when people critique it, they're critiquing all the things that it isn't intended to be, because we've taken it and, in a, I would say mainstream, when you look on social media is horrible. For those, you'll find these on Google, these tests, but they're not the official one, and they're quite biased, and they, people are taking them. So with anything, take it with a grain of salt, right? Don't live by it, but use the gold that's there. And it can be fun, especially like you say, when you're in groups of people, you can kind of go, oh yeah, I think this is a group that's more introverted, so how can I work with that,
Yeah. I think step one for me is just in giving understanding.
Yes.
It gives a little bit of space for differences within people to say, the way I recharge doesn't mean that's normal or exceptional. It just is. And other people recharge differently.
Yeah.
And so it gives us, and same thing with reasoning and thinking and feeling. I like that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think in terms of when you're building a team as well, I do think it's really helpful to have, like you're saying, we having those different personalities, different strengths. But also I feel like it can help people decide roles and the things that
It can.
You encourage people to go somewhere you think they'll thrive with that mindset.
Absolutely. And I've used that in the career coaching mindset many times, or even within. So let's say you've got someone who, like me, okay, I'm a very artsy person that ended up in technology. How did that happen? It's because I was the person filling out a lot of the pieces that the tech industry wasn't comfortable with. And so instead of saying I'm not as introverted and I'm not as sensing or whatever, I'm like, well, but I know who to partner with for that, and here's where my contribution can be. And I think that it's important to do that. And when you're looking at within your organization, how do people feel about new things? How do they see themselves? Instead of just pigeonholing them into a role, it can be, oh, that looks interesting and it appeals to this part of me. And the other thing I think it's when you're a leader and consider how you structure your team, think of their needs. So team meetings are a really good example. When you have those impromptu meetings and you're just running, you're really putting introversion folks at a disadvantage. So I always say, if you want everybody to show up 100%, give them the things ahead of time so they can do the reflection and come prepared, and give space and don't let just people run. Let people know when they're going to have a chance to talk or what's expected. And that also helps maybe the extroverted types to rein in a little bit, but also let the extroverts have their time, have brainstorming sessions with energy, and make it so that everybody gets a little bit of their own style at some point, because otherwise you start to feel isolated, like I don't fit. So.
Yeah, I find in our we do huddles or stand-ups every morning, and I actually find that they go too slow because we sort of don't follow a particular logical process, and too much detail and feeling gets into there that seems irrelevant. But from the team, it is how we know each other, how we understand where we are, how we're showing up. So I get out of it it's not the introvert extrovert piece. To me, it's the feeling and the thinking stage, and leaving space for the feeling and the emotion of what are we going to do today.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
No, this has been fascinating. I think.
So, where do we go from here, Rhys?
I don't know. Where do we go from here, Carrie?
Well, what we just talked about at the moment was what we call the step 1.
Okay.
But I did give you both your step 2, which means that within those 4 letters, we can break it down even further to see what traits make up in your extroversion or your introversion. So you can kind of dive into that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I think, there's plenty of great resources out there. There's lots of books written. There's all sorts of talks. And it's kind of fun, just to do your own kind of research and get out there and go, oh, that relates to me, or that doesn't. There's some really good books that have been around for a long time. One called Please Understand Me. And also Gifts Differing. And those are all about team and about how people can use the Myers-Briggs for all the things that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Now, should we do this with the rest of the team as well?
I think you should.
Right?
We can do really fun team things. And what's fun is this was a really high-level overview. But often what we do in a team setting is we do experiments. So we set everybody up to feel the experiences as they go through that process. And then you can do things to figure out how you want it as a team to take that information and what do you want to do differently? How do you want to build on it? So
this has been exciting, Rhys.
I've really enjoyed this. Yeah, this is good. And the way you've presented it has been fantastic. It's so easy to digest and go through those stages. I think, it's been a journey.
Cool, excellent. My extroverted I'm an E. I'm going to say ENTF. I'm still in the border P. So I'm very close to Rhys's type.
Yeah.
And I'm actually married to an INTP. So I get you guys really well.
Right? Right? We apologize.
I feel like I'm married to one. Thanks so much, Carrie. This has been amazing.
Well, thank you for having me. I love talking about this stuff, and this has been a pile of fun.
And where can people find you if they want to learn more?
They can find me at www.rockstaradvise.com, and I can do this personally or for teams. Just reach out.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Thanks,
you. Carrie. The best place to find this podcast is wherever you find podcasts.
That's where I'd start.